I have a very, 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 very interesting, blessed guest. This brother right here, man, I've known him 20 plus years at Calvary Costa Mesa, and I was one of the first persons he started to, reach out to and doing the sound team and all that. I remember the first time he was doing sound at Calvary. I was there. We were rolling up the chords. And I just want to introduce my brother, the Misk, the one and only Mike Misekow.
Hey there.
Welcome to PNP.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
It's been crazy long, 2, 3, 4 years long.
Since we caught up, right. And getting back to that, I remember the first day that I started doing sound on staff. It's you and me that showed up in the morning, like 5 in the morning.
5 o'clock in the morning.
And it was just you and me, and I'm opening up the door. And we're just going, I can't believe it's Sunday and we're coming in this early. And like, is this really happening? And I did that for 20 years. First day that I started doing sound, it was 5 in the morning and it was you and I. We walk up and we're fumbling with the key, trying to get in the door. We're going like, what are we doing? I think it was more like 5. We used to set up ahead of time instead of the night before. We used to set up that morning, it was just crazy.
Yeah.
So we couldn't believe that we were doing that, and how many years later we were still doing it.
Yeah.
So that was crazy. We had some really good times hanging out in the green room there at Calvary Costa Mesa. And we could write a book, that's for sure.
Yeah. It's like I did it before I left, and I did that coming back. When I came back from Russia, I was rolling up. I'm like, wait, did I do this 15 years ago?
Right, exactly.
So yeah, man, I'm glad he had some time. It's been a couple of years since I actually seen him. It's the first time I've seen him.
Right.
So I'm glad he had time out of his busy
Have we seen
schedule.
each other since the lockdown or no?
No. I drove past your house, but I saw your truck there, but I didn't get a chance to stop by. But so what you been up to, man? What's going on these days? How's the music? He's a sound engineer.
I'm still doing the sound. I was trying to reinvent myself. I lost my job of 20 years. Because of the lockdown. I was furloughed for a while and sent home with pay and so it was interesting times. The weirdest thing about that is, maybe I'm jumping ahead of myself, but I had a music project that I've been trying to do for years. And when the whole lockdown thing happened, I thought this is the time. I got sent home with pay for 5 weeks and then furloughed for another 5 weeks. And I was working on music so hard. And my friend, I have a friend named Tony that he was one of the guys that got me into pro audio stuff back in the 90s, and we both built our home studios together separately, but we were going out to Hollywood and A/B-ing microphones and stuff like that. So I spent a lot of time in Tony's studio during the lockdown, and so I got a project that I was hoping to get off the ground during that time, and we put a lot of work into it, and it's still like pulling teeth trying to get it done. So
I think
we'll
we
see.
all learned something during lockdown. Me starting this stuff, and everybody had to learn new things.
Right, exactly.
Virtual recording, and it was crazy.
Yeah, the Zoom thing was coming in, and I seen this years ago. I knew the internet was going to be a place where people were going to maybe even try to play together in separate places. I had these inventions when I was working in the sound room at Costa Mesa going, I foresee people working in different rooms, and the whole Zoom thing, I foresaw that, and I was trying to get people to to get a team to try to get something going, but obviously somebody always beats me to those kind of things.
So take me to when you first started playing. Now Mike's a guitarist, singer. He's also a drummer.
That was my first. My first instrument for sure.
So take me back. When all the music started to some of your influences and how all of that come about, and then share about what you're doing now.
Well, I could start way back as far as my good old parents. The cool thing about my parents, they were from the 50s. That was their era, right? And they loved music. And the cool thing about my parents is they met at the Hollywood Palladium during a dance, So they met on the sidewalk after the dance, and my dad just was begging my mom, who was just, you know, like a movie star status, like as far as looks goes, and he was 9 years younger than her. So it was cool that my parents met at that, you know, and I got into music. But the super cool thing is, I don't remember ever asking for a drum set, but one Christmas morning, I was 5 years old, I had my first drum kit. So I was a musician in the 60s, you know, which is cool. Yeah. You know, so that was my first drum kit. I really didn't know, you know, or learn much from it. I think my dad used to like teach me some stuff, and then, you know, back when high school started, a lot of people were getting into music, you know, when I was like 14, and so, you know, I got my second drum kit then, and I wound up playing with a guy named Troy, and back then it was so funny because it was like peer pressure type of stuff. I wanted to be a musician, but I really didn't know how to play. And I wound up telling Troy, like, yeah, I could play drums. And I played it off all the way till we had a real garage band back then, like, you know, that we started at this time. I played it all the way up until it was the downbeat in my garage, and I didn't know what I was doing. And I thought Troy was going to be so mad at me. And he was so cool. He taught me how to play. And the interesting thing about Troy is he used to play with James Hetfield and another garage band at the time. So he was like in the original Metallica and stuff. And so a handful of musicians that I grew up would play with James. And the interesting thing that happened out of that was one day, one of the musicians that played with him, we all showed up at Troy's house, just it wasn't planned. And one of the drummers is going, I'm like Pete Best of the Beatles because James really wanted me to be his drummer, you know. So yeah, I got into music then, and then the funny thing is, Troy was instrumental in me playing guitar too. My grandparents, both grandfathers, they were both musicians, and they played together. And my grandfather tried to get me to, you know, play guitar when I was 5, and I really never caught on. He had this guitar with really high action, you know, But my dad, this is a whole nother story, so I won't get deep into it, but my dad and brother wound up dying in a car accident, and Troy showed up at my job, and he played 2 songs on his guitar, and he didn't say it, but I knew one of them. I don't know if it was just, it seemed like a spiritual thing. It seemed like one of them just totally reminded me of my dad, and the other one reminded me of my brother. And what it was, the second one was Forever Young, and the other one was a Beatles song. And I was always going to remember my brother, Forever Young, you know. And I'm all, man, how did Troy pull that off? It just seemed like it just really spoke to me. And that was the day I grabbed the guitar out of Troy's hand right there. I'm all, what? Was this like a C and a F and a C? And it's like, wait, I can play. And right there I was playing Forever Young. I'm all, oh, okay, cool.
You didn't even know music.
Yeah, I mean, I've dabbled in guitar a little bit, but it was the first time I'm all, you know, I picked up the guitar right there. And I've always wanted to play guitar. Well, I was always felt I could write songs. And as a drummer, as you probably know, I don't know, I had no creative input in all the bands I was in growing up as a drummer. You know what I mean? So I'm all, maybe I need to play guitar, you know? So that was a good move. But, you know, I love drums. You know, I never felt like, you know, I was really mastered the drums or anything. But, you know, so, or the guitar for that matter. But.
So now you sing too as well, right?
Yes, and that's another thing.
Did you take vocal lessons? So after you picked up the guitar, did you take guitar lessons and singing lessons?
Well, here's the weird thing. I could never sing or hold a note at all, and I think when I became a Christian, I was able to hold a note. It was the weirdest thing. I remember I was in a garage band when I was 14. I had some friends that would play like Journey songs, you know, back in the early 80s, or maybe even a little earlier than that. And they're like, let's get Mike to sing, because I could, you know, I used to like yell, like, you know, like hoot and holler all the time. And that's all I could do is hoot and holler, you know. So, but when I became a Christian, it was like, I felt like, wow, you know, I can hold a note now. This is weird. It felt like a total God thing. And I did at one point take some vocal lessons too for maybe half a year or so.
So now you realize, who were some of your musical influences? Because I definitely know one is the Beatles. That's for sure.
Yeah, the reason he says that is because I guess my songs, they say, sound Beatley, on John
He's
Lennon.
got some good material. So
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
And obviously me, as far as everybody else, I think we all are influenced by that band, which is crazy. I think it's almost like how Chuck Smith inspired people to like go out in the mission field and be pastors. I think, the Beatles and the British invasion,
Invasion.
But speaking of I could even go way back because of my parents being into music. They weren't musicians, but they loved music. And I seem to like tell people, like ask them, but nobody seems to really remember, like maybe in my little world, it's like growing up in the 70s as a kid, there was like music everywhere. Mm-hmm. There was jingles on the playground, and if you learned a song, everybody would sing along. I remember being on the bus at 5 years old, and we would be driving by we would drive by this high school that was, during the hippie days, and we were like 5 or so. And on the bus, we'd be doing sing-alongs. I remember clearly singing like Bob Moran, by the Beach Boys with the whole bus singing along. Wow. And it's like, back then music was everywhere, and I remember just really being even excited about music as a toddler. Mm-hmm. And one of my first memories of really liking music is my mom, to get me to take a bath, she would play that one song about Splish Splash, I was taking a bath. Yeah. And that was her trick to get me to take a bath as a little baby. But when that song came on, I was so excited just hearing that rhythm. Splish Splash
first.
Yeah. And then even, some of my earlier influences too was like, even with my parents being from the 50s and, my dad kind of being a greaser, that he had the rolled up sleeves with the Lucky Strikes right here and stuff,
The James Dean.
So my dad had that look growing up, and they loved dancing, and as a family we would be driving down the street singing along to the radio and stuff. But yeah, like when Chuck Berry would come on the TV, my mom would call me, as a little toddler, because she knew I would get totally excited about it. Even like, people like Mama Cass and people like that would come on. I was all excited about it. So yeah, I was influenced by all those 60s, all that cool music that was, happening, and then my parents being in the 50s and all that. So yeah, I took some.
So MI, you were in MI for 6 months?
Yeah, 6 months. It was a cool course. It was like something that would, I think it was an all-day thing, maybe like a 6 hour day thing.
I heard they can be brutal.
It was brutal.
It was like,
Yeah, the cool thing about that, there was guys like Eddie Kramer, who recorded Hendrix and stuff like that. Okay. That's the kind of guys we gotta hear from and hear their perspective, and so it was, guys. Real world experience there, and hearing from those guys, and some of the bands that would come in there were like Dream Theater, like those are the kind of guys we gotta get some of our chops down on with recording and stuff. So that was fun.
So now, fast forward to your engineering background. How did that all come about? I mean, we said earlier that you started your first gig at Calvary Costa Mesa.
Right.
So how did the engineering come about, and where you are today with that now?
Well, that's very interesting, because I never really seen myself as an engineer, right? And then I wanted to be involved at church, to be accountable and and have something to do there. And I think it was Odin Fong that I talked to at the time. I think he might have encouraged me to get into like just helping out with putting up chairs or something one day. And then I started thinking, you know what? I think I'll get into sound, because that's my thing. I think God's putting on my heart to do music, and possibly at the church. So it'd be good to have that, know the inner workings of all that, and might as well learn something that has to do with my gift. And so I remember they had a a musicians fellowship. I think it was with Daryl Mansfield, right?
Okay,
I think he was the one that did it.
Before I got there.
So yeah, so I walk up like, yeah, I wanted to do sound at church. Yeah, why not? And then it was like, so I walk up to the sound guy and I'm all, hey, can I help out with sound? I was all excited about it, and he's like, yeah, right, get in line. I'm all, oh, I wasn't expecting that. So okay, so that didn't happen. So I backed off, and then one day I was going to one of the college and career young adult things at the time when I was a young man, and the pastor said that, hey, we need a sound guy, and I go, hey, I don't come here all the time, but can I do it? And he's all, yeah, come to the meeting. And so next thing you know, I was, I guess I was a faithful volunteer, and Calvary Chapel started to try to get me to come on staff, and they were having me help out with the men's conferences and these bigger gigs, and I had no idea that was going to happen, And so I never really felt like I was like the engineer type, and all that, and I feel like I'm more of the creative side, but I know God's given me some really like logical understanding with, being able to like, with inventions and I scored really high in some logic tests where some people couldn't believe it one time. They came out from the back, but I feel like I'm really slow, at things. But if I keep up with it, I can get good at it. So I never really thought I'd be, an engineer, so to speak. But I just kept at it, and it felt like God really gave me like more of an intuitive thing about it, rather than, being the egghead type that I could read a manual go in one ear and out the other, you know what I mean? But I learned from hands-on, so I just kept at it. And I think the thing that's interesting with that is I feel like the Lord has given me like a vision of things that have never been done with music before. That's like my thing, like it's like my life's passion to like almost be like a mad scientist in the recording room and try to get this vision the Lord's given me, And I feel, speaking about the Beatles and that kind of stuff, I feel like the Lord has shown me like the next step with creativeness of music, like almost like things that could really change music as we know it. I think it's that bizarre, And I've always wanted to like see if I can get it off the ground to glorify the Lord with that. But who knows if that will ever happen?
It will. It will.
Oh well, thank you.
We'll get it out there.
Yeah. So we'll see. And it seems like I have a calling. At least I feel like really led to, which I think is cool, to reach out to unbelievers and people in the industry. I worked in the film industry for a little while right before Calvary, and that was a very interesting story on how that all came about and what the Lord did for a little period of time. But it seems like God's like giving me little stepping stones with all this crazy vision that I have, And one cool story that happened, I don't know if I don't know if I told you all this stuff because I think it was about the time I didn't see it for a while, but I had this friend at church. She kept on saying, Mike, I got in with this producer and in the industry in Hollywood, and I can get you in this one gig, and I really feel the Lord wants you at this gig, And I didn't think much about it. I was busy, doing sound at Calvary, and I'm like, okay, yeah, so Saturday, 2 weeks from now, sure, I'll go. And like almost every day she was texting me to come. And I wind up the day of going, okay, I'm going to go to this thing. And she gets a hold of me and says, don't come. I can't get you in anymore.
Oh, no.
And I go, you've been saying that God was telling you that I'm supposed to be at this gig, right? So I go, I'm going. And she goes, Mike, I can't get you in. Well, I don't know if he can get me in or not, but you told me God, and I feel God's telling me to come now.
So I'm going to go.
Yeah. The weirdest thing happened. I go all the way. It was at Sony's Pictures lot. It was at Sony's Pictures. And I just drove there out, the LA area. And or whatever is in the valley, I forget. But anyways, out that way. So the weirdest thing happens. I drive up. I come in some back way. The security guards are telling me to park a certain way, and me and my friend are still texting and blah blah blah, and I'm saying, I don't want to. She said something changed where she couldn't get me in anymore, and I didn't want to get her in trouble.
Yeah.
Long story short, I was able to get in by these security guards that I met in the back.
Yeah.
She goes, Mike, it was the weirdest thing. You came walking in, and there was like a line of 12 security guards that just, went separate ways, right? And then you come walking through. And the weirdest thing that happened that day, because I have all this vision on my mind of what I felt God showed me with music. I walked into this pep talk from Quincy Jones, giving the best engineers, the greatest engineers of our time, a pep talk about music and engineering and to keep going. Where music's taking a hit right now, with the internet and the business. But I looked at it like I didn't even think of it at the time, but I thought about it later. I walked in. I feel just like I'm just like this engineer. Yeah, I am this engineer that I just do church stuff, and I'm not a great engineer. But in hindsight, I went, oh my gosh, the Lord had me in on this pep talk with the greatest engineers of our time. Maybe He will do something with this crazy vision. I don't know. And then from Quincy Jones. And that night, I met. They were given the what do you call it? The Giant Award to Bruce Swedien, who was one of the greatest engineers who walked the earth. And he was there, and he actually died in 2020, along with Al Schmidt. So Al Schmidt and Bruce Swedien. Bruce Swedien was a guy that was like Quincy Jones's right hand man. Recorded all the Michael Jackson stuff, and he goes way back to like Count Basie and all that with the big bands. But he did Thriller and Off the Wall. Yeah. So he was known to be like him and Al Schmidt, like the greatest two engineers that walked the earth. So I was able to walk up to Bruce, and I actually told him, I go, hey, I have this vision, that I feel was to create stuff with music that's never been done before. And he actually said, okay, you got one of those digits, take my email. So I thought maybe God was going to do something with me and him, but we went back and forth with email one or two times, and nothing ever came of that. And he still at the time recorded at home. But it was super cool that God gave me that little stepping stone and encouragement, like, keep going. Don't give up on this project. I'm putting you in cool places at times.
And somebody told you not to come, and you went anyway.
Yeah.
Though you were disobedient. Yeah. You still went.
Yeah. It was crazy.
Sometimes we have to do that, man.
Yeah, exactly.
So how did now that you got engineering, start getting your foot into that, how did Calvary play a part? First of all, how did you become a believer?
Oh, wow, that's a really
briefly, because I don't have much battery life left.
I'm long-winded, I know, I'm sorry.
That's fine. But how did you become a believer that led up to working at Calvary?
That's a very interesting story, too. I think, you guys be the judge if it's interesting or not, but I think God did some cool stuff. Man. Yeah, so anyways, the funny thing is, I was just a partier, that grew up and, when I was a teenager, it was the 80s, so I grew up in that party scene. And the weird thing about the party scene, I don't know if it happens with everybody, but it was happening with us all the time as partiers. We would be, there's some hills we would go drink beers on and, and party. And then it would get to a point when everybody was high or stoned or drunk. There was always a part where God seemed to start speaking to us. Like we would be going, oh, wow, look at all the stars there. There must be a God, and all that kind of stuff would happen. And then, there was I don't know what U2 was trying to say with their song, I still haven't found what I'm looking for. But I remember it was about that time where that song was really popular, and it said stuff like the beginning lyrics is, I have climbed the highest mountain, I had run through the fields only to be with you. And I felt as a partier, that's where I was. Like I'd be like partying with friends in the hills, like I said, or whatever. And it'd always get to this point where the conversation would come up to God. And then I'd find myself like going off to the side alone, like going like, God, are you real? You know what I mean? And then I had people in my life that were witnessing to me and all that during that time. And funny thing about how this ties with doing sound and Calvary and all is one time I was actually running from the police because of some vandalism I had done at the time as a teenager, about the time people were witnessing to me and stuff. And I just went to a couple times. I was invited to this outreach where it was Chuck Swindoll's church, which was down the street from where I grew up. So I'm running from the police, running down this sidewalk, and I remember, we're coming up on this church. I remember being at an outreach concert here, and I walked in this fellowship hall type place. The door was open. I started unplugging the soundboard, and I'm totally drunk, running from the cops, and take this soundboard and go running down the street and put it in some bushes. And my friends we were all pretty much unbelievers, you know. They're going, Mike, you're going to hell for this one.
You literally went in and unplugged the whole sound thing?
Yes. And so we went and we picked it up. I think we're probably driving my VW bus, I think, probably at the time. And, I never got, to take advantage of that mixing board. It actually wound up with some punk band, I think, that was kind of popular. I forget who they were that ended up with that. Because I was in the OC punk scene a little bit and kind of affiliated with some people. But, after I got saved, I actually went and, asked for forgiveness for the church. And they had like their there was like I didn't have the soundboard. I mean, it was long gone. The punkers had used the console.
Too bad they didn't have the soundboard. I could just hear Chuck now. Oh my.
Yeah, right. Well, this was Chuck Swindoll's church. It wasn't Smith, but he still had a deep voice like that. But the funny thing is that when that all happened, it's just funny that I wound up doing sound at Calvary Costa Mesa. It's like, because that like felt like one of the weirdest things in my life that I did. I was never, someone that was a thief and all that. I just kind of hit this weird spot when I got into, partying and stuff for a little bit. And so, I was starting to say when I went back to the church, I guess it was the facilities manager that I went and said, hey, I stole this console here a year or two back or whatever it was. I just want to pay you guys back, and the guy goes, you know what? He goes, I was here that night. I think he was working as a security guard or something. He's all, how did you steal that board? I go, you know what? I was drunk. I tried the door. It was open. I just went. He's all, we could not figure out. We were all, we were watching things and everything, and we could not figure it out. I go, I don't know. I just walked in and walked out. But so he goes, you know what? He goes, it was like $100 deductible on the insurance. He's all, just give us $100. And so I think at the time, I think I flipped him a 50 at the time.
Yeah.
But then so just to end up there, actually when I was when I was working one time or at the church, and we were doing a pastor's conference, and all of a sudden I had Bill Walden walk up and just chit chat for a minute. And Bill Walden was the singer of what was that punk band that he was in? He was in that band that was in the outreach at Chuck Swindoll's church. Okay. So it was weird. It was like almost I saw it come full circle. He was the one that was witnessing to me where, using the board that I eventually ripped off. And then here he was standing next to me at a pastor's conference while I was tweaking the knobs. Almost everything came full circle. This is weird. Wow. So.
That's awesome.
Yeah, man. So that's how all that happened. And it was kind of, like I said, I got into sound and just to be involved in church and to learn more about the musicianship and how things are plugged in and all that stuff.
The musicianship. Don't we know about the musicians? Mike, It's too loud. Mike, can you give me? Mike, can you do? Don't we know about the musicianship?
Oh my gosh.
We don't have time to
stories.
tell you the stories, but there's some musicianship. That's for sure. That's for sure.
Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah. Man. So yeah, dude. You know, and we living in some crazy times right now, and you know, everybody's searching for something, searching for truth. What can you share with people out there that don't know Christ, that don't? They're looking for something. They're looking for some, whether alcohol, drugs, whatever. They're trying to find it to replace the emptiness. What can you say to somebody that is searching for? They know, maybe they don't know that God is real, or they know God's real and they haven't had an opportunity to give their life to Him. What would you say to that person?
Right. You know, like something that was actually on my heart that, well, you know, probably lead up to exactly what you're asking is, when I just got done playing music here before I came into the interview, and I don't know if I even told you this yet, but I shared with the crowd out there. I still do sound to this day. You know, I don't work at Calvary Costa Mesa anymore, but I actually do sound at Calvary Chapel Harbour, and it's a total blessing to be there. And I also do sound at a place called Campus Jacks, where there's a lot of. Yeah. You know about that place? Yeah. The trippiest part, the day I said yes to working at Calvary of the Harbor, Golden calls me, who's the head engineer at Campus Jacks, and asked me if I wanted to work there. And the weirdest thing, it was me, Golden, and Will, Chuck's grandson, that were, you know, on Chuck's crew. We were all working at Campus Jacks together. We couldn't believe it. We're all, how in the world this happened? Wow. And the cool thing about being there, you know, like I said earlier, I felt kind of called to be in the world and be a light, is, you know, one of the owners is a Christian guy, and then I don't know about the other one, but he's like really cool guy. Like he reaches out and feeds the homeless and stuff like that. But I say all that to say, you know, I was working as an engineer still, and God might be leading me into like maybe being a park ranger. That's another story, but I'm still at this point doing engineer stuff. So I worked this event where I got paid in cash. You know, I had a little healthy amount of cash on me. I go to the ATM last night, and you know, the inevitable happened. I wound up getting I almost got robbed last night. A guy attempted to rob me. Really? Yes. Wow. Yes, and it was the weirdest thing because they always tell you to be aware of your surroundings, you know. Yeah. And I just realized I really learned something. It doesn't matter if you're aware of your surroundings. If you don't have a gun on you, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. Yeah, you can be at the highest city, Newport Beach, and all that. It doesn't matter.
And I went to Irvine, and I was going to a well-lit area. You know, it was next to the gas station. It was 11 o'clock at night, but there was people around and guys working on maintenance in the bank. And I go, it looks pretty safe, but I'm still aware of my surroundings, looking around. Next thing you know, I have this guy yelling at me, like, do not turn around, or he didn't say these words, but he was alluded that he had a gun. And so he was basically saying, you look at me and I'm going to shoot you. And I'm all, okay, how do you deal with this one? You know, I always have my mind to see what your attacker's going to do and know what his next move is. Now I got a guy telling me he's going to kill me if I look at him. I'm all, wow, this is a whole different thing. Wow. You know? So, long story short, the guy, I guess, wound up sizing me up, or it was a God thing. He wound up just taking off. And I was so livid. I was so mad. I'm all, here's a guy that threatened my life and threatened to take my money. And the funny thing is, I'm like making sure my bills are like, you know, straight, because they get kicked out, you know, and stuff if they're not. And next thing you know, I got these $200 bills that keep on shooting back out of the ATM. I'm all, that's just my luck, you know.
He's probably standing.
No, he actually was. He's all, I should take your money. And then, like, every time I would look at him, it would escalate. Like, he was acting like he was going to kill me. Yeah. So, long story short, he stepped behind the building out of, you know, that was like, he was 8 feet away. He was just out of my sight. So I didn't know if he was literally just right there waiting for me, or, you know, or if he took off running. I had no idea. And I go, okay, instead of finishing this transaction, I better just get to my vehicle. And And I did, and I found myself so livid at this person where I called the cops, and they go, "You want us to talk? You want to stay and have us talk to you?" I go, "No." I go, "I'm going to help you guys look for him because he's on foot." And they're okay. And I felt in my heart, I was so mad. I wanted this guy to be hurt or go to jail or get caught. And I say all that to say, recently I started watching a documentary on Brian Wilson, who's always also one of the guys that I'm inspired by, of course, with his writings. And he has this song called Love and Mercy, and I saw this really cool rendition of it by this boys choir from England. And it's just such a sweet song. And I was realizing that me as a Christian, I was like, it was hard for me to pray for this guy like I should have. You know what I mean? I have eternal life, but this guy steps away from hell. You know what I mean? And so when I had Jen, who I got to play with up here, she was encouraging me to like, "Oh, Mike, talk about your story, and maybe you can tell people and encourage them towards the Lord somehow." And when she said that, I had no thought of like going up there and turning it around until I started trying to work on that Brian Wilson song to possibly play it up here tonight, and I wasn't able to learn it fast enough, but I realized as a Christian, my heart should have been more towards praying for this guy and not wanting to see him get hurt, you know, because it was I think God had mercy on me, I think, because if I would have found him, I probably could have took matters into my own hands and done something stupid. I was so mad, you know, so I just think, you know, we have all these people that are out there looking for something, willing to rob people, you know, but I think as Christians, we really need to, like, you know, how that song, it turned around on me. It's like, love and mercy is what you need tonight. And I always looked at it like I was singing to an unbeliever, like, hey, you need love. But no, I need love and mercy for you. You know what I mean? For the unbeliever.
It's
you know?
hard. It's hard to be in that situation.
Yeah, so yeah, maybe, you know, I've read the words of it out there, and maybe I'll read it right here, but you know, I was really inspired by the song and want to learn it. But Brian writes, he goes, "I was sitting in a crummy movie with my hands on my chin. Oh, the violence that occurs seems like we never win. Love and mercy, that's what you need tonight. So love and mercy to you and your friends tonight. I was laying in my room and the news came on TV. A lot of people out there hurting, and it really scares me. Love and mercy, that's what you need tonight. So love and mercy to you and your friends tonight. I was standing in a bar, watching all the people there. Oh, the loneliness in this world, oh, it's just not fair. Love and mercy to you tonight." So,
Oh, that's deep.
yeah, it's deep, yeah. So it's like, basically, you know, what I could encourage the people out there, it's like, we need love and mercy, and God's a God of love and mercy, and that's where we're going to find it is you know, from Him and from what His finished work on the cross.
Yeah.
And the coolest thing I think that I could tell people is sometimes people complicate the whole gospel. It's really easy, and I think this is a gold nugget. Like, this is a piece of wisdom I picked up along the way from an old man. You know, but is that it's simple, just to cry out to God and ask Him, "Lord, if you're real, show me." You know, that's all you got to do. You know, and God will show you. You know, it's that simple. If you say that and you mean that in your heart, God's going to blow your mind. You know, so I think that's my little bit of wisdom that I could tell people.
That's awesome, man. Oh, man, I know we can go on and on and on and on. I know we can. It's been great, dude.
Yeah.
I knew you were going to have something to share. That's why, you know, second best to last. I got Jen coming up. Hopefully she's still out there.
Yeah, I'll go get her.
But, man, it's great seeing you again.
Thank you,
It
brother.
definitely
I
won't
really,
be the last time.
Yeah.
You know? I know it's been a while. We've been kind of going separate ways,
Yeah.
doing our own thing. But we always connect. When I saw you on the program, I saw the Misk. And I'm like, that can't be, because I call him the Misk. What's up, Misk? And he took the name. You got to trademark that. You got to make some T-shirts, man. The Misk.
Do you remember what your name was when they would call me the Misk? What I'd call you?
Oh,
Funkalicious, was it?
Funkalicious, yeah. I forgot who gave me that
Coran
name.
Funkalicious.
I forgot who gave me that name. Yeah. Don't take it wrong now. This has been great having Mike, man. And so great,
thanks for having me.
And hopefully, we get a chance to see you again, bro.
Yeah, definitely. We're gonna
Do
have
some
to
more of
spend
this
some time.
stuff.
We're gonna have to go grab that burger, like we were talking about.
I mean, this has been. You guys don't understand. I mean, I said it in a previous interview. There needs to be more Christian events. People complain there's no Christian events around, especially now. So this is like the first for everything. So hopefully we can keep doing this, man.
Yeah, you know what? I didn't even know you were going to be here. I found out like by accident on the way here when you paid.
To be honest, I didn't know this till Thursday. I got the Facebook thing, and I'm like, I'm there, man.
Yeah, this is. I was so blessed to hear that you were going to be here and see what you're doing. This is such a cool thing.
So hopefully we keep this stuff going, because we got to get the message out. We got to have live. Things going on. So
yeah, I kind of feeling God was really going to do something tonight, and I didn't know it was you, man. This is awesome.
Thanks for joining PNP, Mike.
Amen. God bless you. Love it, brother.
You too, bro.
All right.
Thanks for watching Power and Pounders on YouTube and Facebook. You can also listen to the podcast on Anchor FM, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. God bless.